The Awakening. In the vast expanse of space, humanity's greatest achievement loomed silently among the stars. The ESS Genesis, Earth's first true star destroyer, represented the culmination of centuries of technological advancement and the desperate need for survival. Its creation was born not from conquest, but from necessity, a response to a threat that had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. Commander Sarah Chin stood at the bridge's observation deck, her weathered face reflecting in the reinforced plasma glass. 20 years of service had led to this moment, yet nothing could have prepared her for the weight of responsibility that now rested upon her shoulders. The Genesis wasn't just a warship, it was humanity's last hope. Commander, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice broke through her contemplation, the quantum core is stabilizing. We're ready for the first full power test. Sarah turned, her eyes scanning the holographic displays that filled the bridge. Each screen told a different story: power readings, shield matrices, weapon systems, and the status of the revolutionary Helios array, humanity's greatest technological achievement. The array was what made the Genesis different from every other ship ever built. It could harness the power of a star itself. "Begin the sequence," she ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "And make sure the colonial fleet is well beyond the testing perimeter." The bridge crew moved with practiced precision, their fingers dancing across haptic interfaces as they prepared for the first full power activation of the most powerful weapon system ever created by human hands. The Genesis had been built in secret, hidden within the asteroid belt of the Proxima Centauri system, far from the prying eyes of the Nexus Empire. The Nexus, humanity's greatest mistake. First contact should have been a moment of celebration, a step forward for human civilization. Instead, it became the beginning of a nightmare. The aliens hadn't come as friends or even conquerors, they came as harvesters, seeking to drain Earth's resources and harvest its population for their biological experimentation. The war had lasted 15 years, and humanity had lost every major engagement. Earth was now a quarantine zone, its surface rendered nearly uninhabitable by Nexus weaponry. The surviving human population had fled to the colonies, protected by the remaining fleet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Nexus found them. "Power levels at 60% and climbing," announced Chief Engineer Patel from her station. "Quantum matrix is holding steady. No signs of instability in the containment field." Sarah watched as the numbers continued to rise. The Genesis represented everything humanity had left: their knowledge, their resources, their hope. The ship's design had been controversial from the start. Some argued it was too dangerous, that attempting to harness stellar energy could result in a catastrophe that would destroy what remained of human civilization. Others believed it was their only chance of survival. 80% power, Patel continued. Helios array is beginning to resonate. Quantum field harmonics are within expected parameters. The ship hummed with energy, a deep vibration that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space itself. Through the observation windows, Sarah could see the massive solar collectors beginning to glow, their surface shimmering with barely contained power. 90% power. "Commander, we're approaching the theoretical maximum." Sarah's hand tightened on the railing. This was the moment of truth. Either the Genesis would work as designed, giving humanity a fighting chance against the Nexus, or... A sudden alarm blared through the bridge, its harsh tone cutting through the tension like a knife. "Multiple contacts." Lieutenant Rodriguez shouted. "Nexus signatures detected. They're dropping out of hyperspace." Sarah's blood ran cold. "How many?" 3 capital ships, Commander. Dreadnought class. They must have detected our power signature." The test forgotten, Sarah snapped into action. "Battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Bring weapons online and charge the Helios array. If they want to see what this ship can do, we'll give them a demonstration." The Genesis's massive frame shuddered as its systems shifted from test configuration to combat readiness. Around the bridge, crew members rushed to their stations, faces grim with determination. They had trained for this, but everyone knew that simulations could never truly prepare you for actual combat. Nexus ships are charging weapons, Rodriguez reported. They're moving to surround us. Sarah watched as the enemy vessels appeared on the tactical display. The Nexus ships were massive, their biomechanical hulls bristling with weapons. Under normal circumstances, even one such vessel would be more than a match for any human ship. But the Genesis was anything but normal. All power to the Helios array, Sarah commanded. Target the lead vessel. Let's show them what humanity is capable of. The ship's power core thrummed with energy as the Helios array began to charge. Through the viewport, Sarah could see the massive solar collectors beginning to align, their surface now glowing with an intensity that rivaled a small star. Array at full power, Patel announced. Ready to fire on your command. Sarah took a deep breath. This wasn't how they had planned to test the Genesis's capabilities, but perhaps it was fitting. The Nexus had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction, forced them to evolve and adapt in ways they never thought possible. Now, it was time to show them the result of their hubris. Fire. The Helios array activated, and for a brief moment, the Genesis created its own star. A beam of pure stellar energy, concentrated and focused through quantum lenses, lashed out across space. The lead Nexus vessel, despite its advanced shields and armor, stood no chance. The beam cut through its defenses like they weren't there, vaporizing a significant portion of its hull in an instant. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the massive enemy ship broke apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length as its power core went critical. The remaining Nexus vessels immediately began to retreat, their commanders clearly shocked by the display of power they had just witnessed. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The Nexus would return, and next time they would be prepared. The real war was about to begin, and humanity finally had a weapon that could turn the tide. Send word to the colonial fleet, she ordered. Operation Genesis is now active. It's time to take back what's ours. As the Genesis moved to pursue the retreating Nexus ships, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. For the first time in 15 years, humanity had hope. And hope, combined with the most powerful warship ever created, was a force that even the Nexus would learn to fear retribution. The aftermath of the Genesis's first battle spread through human space like wildfire. Within days, the news of a single human ship destroying a Nexus dreadnought had reached every colony and outpost. Hope, long forgotten in the face of constant defeat, began to flourish once again. But aboard the Genesis, Commander Sarah Chin knew that their victory had come with a price. The Helios array's first combat use had revealed both its power and its limitations. Chief Engineer Patel's report lay before her on the holographic display, its contents troubling. The quantum matrix showed signs of strain during the firing sequence, Patel explained to the assembled command staff. We can't maintain that level of power output for extended periods without risking a containment breach. Lieutenant Rodriguez leaned forward, his face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the briefing room's displays. How long until the Nexus responds? They won't take this lying down. Intelligence suggests they're already mobilizing, Sarah replied. We've detected increased activity in all known Nexus-controlled systems. They're gathering their fleet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Genesis had proven itself capable of destroying a Nexus capital ship, but the enemy would adapt. They always did. The next battle would be different. What about Earth? The question came from Dr. Emma Hayes, the ship's chief scientist and one of the key designers of the Helios array. With the Genesis operational, we might have a chance to take it back. Sarah had been considering the same possibility. Earth, their homeworld, had been under Nexus quarantine for over a decade. The surface was largely uninhabitable, but the Nexus maintained a significant presence in orbit, using the planet as a forward base for their operations in human space. That's exactly what we're going to do, Sarah announced. The Nexus will expect us to play it safe, to stay close to the colonies and protect what we have left. Instead, we're going to hit them where it hurts. The next few hours were spent planning the operation. The Genesis would lead a strike force of conventional warships in an assault on Earth. While the rest of the fleet engaged the Nexus orbital defenses, the Genesis would target their main installation, a massive space station that served as their command center for the entire sector. As the briefing concluded, Sarah remained behind, studying the tactical projections. The plan was bold, perhaps even reckless, but they needed to maintain the initiative. The Genesis was their trump card, but its very existence had changed the nature of the war. The Nexus would be developing countermeasures, and they needed to strike before those countermeasures were ready. Commander, Dr. Hayes's voice interrupted her thoughts. There's something else you should know about the Helios array. Sarah looked up, noting the concern in the scientist's expression. Go on. During the battle, we detected something unusual in the quantum feedback patterns. The array isn't just converting stellar energy, it's doing something to space itself. Something we don't fully understand. Is it dangerous? I don't know, Hayes admitted. But the effects seem to be cumulative. Each firing of the array creates subtle distortions in the quantum field. They fade over time, but if we use it too frequently. Sarah nodded, understanding the implications. The Genesis was more powerful than they had imagined, but that power came with risks they were only beginning to comprehend. The attack on Earth began 3 days later. The Genesis led a fleet of 30 ships through hyperspace, emerging in high orbit over humanity's ancestral home. The sight of the planet, its once blue surface now marred by gray clouds and vast dead zones, filled the bridge crew with a mixture of anger and determination. The Nexus responded exactly as expected, launching waves of biomechanical fighters and bringing their orbital defense platforms online. But they had clearly not anticipated the speed of the human attack. Before they could fully organize their defenses, the Genesis's escort fleet struck, engaging the Nexus forces in a furious battle that lit up Earth's orbit with weapons fire. Multiple enemy capital ships detected, Rodriguez reported. They're moving to protect the command station. Sarah watched as the massive Nexus structure came into view. Unlike their ships, which combined organic and mechanical elements, the station was purely artificial, a vast construction of dark metal and pulsing energy conduits. Charge the Helios array, she ordered. Full power to forward shields. Take us in. The Genesis moved through the chaos of battle like a predator stalking its prey. Nexus ships tried to intercept them, but the escort fleet kept them occupied, sacrificing themselves to give the Genesis its shot at the station. Array charged and ready, Patel announced. But Commander, the quantum distortions Dr. Hayes warned about, they're already starting to form. We may not get another chance, Sarah replied. Target the station's main reactor. Fire when ready. The Helios array activated, and once again, artificial starfire lashed out across space. The beam struck the Nexus station dead center, its energy burning through layers of advanced armor and defensive shields. For a moment, it seemed as though the station would hold. Then something unexpected happened. As the beam continued to pour energy into the target, the quantum distortions Dr. Hayes had detected began to grow. Space itself seemed to twist and bend around the point of impact, creating a visible ripple in the fabric of reality. Commander. Hayes's voice was urgent. The array is causing some kind of cascade effect. The station's reactor is becoming unstable. Sarah watched in amazement as the distortion grew, enveloping the entire station in a sphere of warped spacetime. Then, with a flash of light that temporarily blinded every sensor on the Genesis, the station vanished, not destroyed, but apparently displaced to somewhere else in spacetime. The battle around them came to a sudden halt as both human and Nexus forces tried to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The Genesis had not just destroyed the enemy's command center, it had apparently torn a hole in the universe and sent it, somewhere else. All ships, fall back to Rally Point Alpha, Sarah ordered, her mind racing with the implications of what had just happened. We need to understand what just happened before we use the array again. As the Genesis and its remaining escorts retreated from Earth orbit, Sarah knew that the war had entered a new phase. The Helios array was more than just a weapon, it was a key to understanding and manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe itself. But with that knowledge came a terrible responsibility. The power to tear holes in spacetime was not something to be used lightly. And somewhere out there, the Nexus were undoubtedly already planning their response. The battle for Earth was over, but the true test of the Genesis and its crew was just beginning. Revelation. The discovery of the Helios array's true capabilities changed everything. In the weeks following the Battle of Earth, the Genesis became both humanity's greatest hope and its greatest source of concern. Dr. Emma Hayes and her team worked around the clock, trying to understand the quantum phenomena they had witnessed. It's not just creating distortions in spacetime, Hayes explained during an emergency meeting of the ship's senior staff. The array is actually tapping into something fundamental, a layer of reality we didn't even know existed. The holographic display showed complex mathematical models of the array's effects, patterns of energy that defied conventional physics. Sarah studied the data, trying to grasp the implications. The Nexus haven't attempted to retaliate, Lieutenant Rodriguez pointed out. Our long-range scouts report that they've actually withdrawn from several contested systems. They're afraid, Chief Engineer Patel suggested. We didn't just destroy their command station, we made it cease to exist. That's got to give even the Nexus pause. But Sarah wasn't convinced. Throughout the war, the Nexus had demonstrated an almost singular focus on their objectives. This sudden withdrawal seemed out of character. Her suspicions were confirmed 3 days later, when the Genesis's quantum sensors detected something impossible. Commander. Hayes's voice came through the comm system, tight with urgency. You need to see this immediately. In the ship's main science lab, Hayes and her team had detected what appeared to be a quantum resonance signal, similar to the distortions created by the Helios array, but far more powerful. At first, we thought it was an echo from our last firing, Hayes explained. But look at the temporal signature. This distortion existed before we ever activated the array. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what that meant. The Nexus, they already knew about this technology. Not exactly, Hayes replied. I think they've been searching for it. The patterns we're detecting, they're ancient. Millions of years old. Someone else created this technology long before either humanity or the Nexus existed. The revelation sparked a frantic race for understanding. The Genesis's sensors were recalibrated to detect these quantum signatures, and soon they had mapped dozens of similar anomalies throughout known space. Each one represented a point where the fabric of reality had been manipulated by technology similar to the Helios array. Look at the distribution pattern, Hayes pointed out, gesturing to a three-dimensional star map dotted with glowing points. These aren't random. They form a network, like ancient highways through space-time. The implications were staggering. An ancient civilization had mastered the same technology that humanity had stumbled upon in their desperate bid for survival. But where were they now? And what connection did the Nexus have to all of this? The answer came from an unexpected source. During a routine scan of one of the quantum anomalies, the Genesis detected a signal, weak but distinct, broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't have been possible through normal space. It's some kind of data transmission, Hayes reported. The pattern matches Nexus communications protocols, but the underlying structure is completely different. More elegant. Working with the ship's AI, Hayes and her team began decoding the signal. What they found changed their understanding of not just the war, but of humanity's place in the galaxy. The Nexus weren't just invaders, they were scavengers. Like humanity, they had discovered the remnants of the ancient civilization's technology. But unlike humanity, who had recreated the technology through scientific advancement, the Nexus had been trying to steal it directly. They've been harvesting worlds, Sarah realized, the horror of it sinking in. Not just for resources, but looking for more pieces of this ancient technology. Earth wasn't chosen at random, they detected something there. The revelation brought with it a new urgency. If there was ancient technology hidden on Earth, they couldn't allow the Nexus to find it. But the implications went even further. The Helios Array wasn't just a weapon, it was a key to understanding technologies that could reshape the galaxy itself. Commander, Rodriguez interrupted their discussion, his voice tense. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple Nexus vessels approaching. They're different from anything we've seen before. On the tactical display, Sarah watched as the enemy fleet appeared. The ships were massive, their hulls covered in patterns that pulsed with familiar quantum energy. The Nexus had been adapting, incorporating their understanding of the ancient technology into their own vessels. Battle stations, Sarah ordered. But we're not running this time. Dr. Hayes, can you use our sensors to analyze their ships? We need to understand what we're dealing with. As the Genesis prepared for battle, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something momentous. The war had evolved beyond a simple conflict for survival. They were now part of a race to unlock the secrets of an ancient power, secrets that could either save humanity or lead to its final destruction. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Hayes reported. They're trying to replicate our technology, but there's something wrong with their implementation. The signatures are unstable. Sarah watched as the Nexus fleet approached, their ships moving in patterns that defied conventional space combat tactics. They had learned from their previous encounter with the Genesis, but their understanding of the technology they were using was clearly incomplete. Charge the Helios Array, she ordered. But this time, we're not aiming to destroy. Dr. Hayes, can you modify the array to interact with their quantum signatures? Hayes's fingers flew over her console as she made the adjustments. Yes, but I don't know what will happen when the fields interact. We could create a cascade reaction that affects all of spacetime in this region. Sometimes the only way to understand something is to take a risk, Sarah replied. All hands, brace for temporal distortion. Fire when ready. The Helios Array activated, its beam of concentrated stellar energy lancing out toward the lead Nexus vessel. But this time, instead of destroying its target, the beam created a web of quantum interactions, connecting the Genesis to the enemy fleet through the very fabric of spacetime itself. What they discovered in that moment would change the course of the war forever. The ancient civilization hadn't vanished, they had evolved beyond the need for physical form, transcending into the quantum realm itself. And now, through the connection established by the Helios Array, they were reaching out to make contact, transcendence. The quantum connection established between the Genesis and the Nexus fleet created a bridge across dimensions, and through this bridge came understanding. The ancient civilization, which called themselves the Precursors, existed in a state beyond normal spacetime. Their consciousness flowed through the quantum network they had created eons ago, watching as younger races discovered and attempted to use their technology. Sarah Chen found herself experiencing their memories directly, her mind connected to the vast quantum consciousness through the Helios Array. She saw the rise and fall of countless civilizations, each one discovering the Precursor's technology, each one facing the choice between transcendence and destruction. They're showing us everything, Hayes whispered, her own consciousness linked to the network. The Nexus, they weren't the first to choose wrongly. Through the quantum link, they learned the truth. The Precursors had left their technology as a test, a way for emerging civilizations to prove they were ready for the next step in evolution. The Helios Array, which humanity had created through their own understanding of physics, was meant to be the key to accessing this knowledge, but the Nexus had taken a different approach. Instead of developing the technology through natural scientific advancement, they had attempted to force their way into the quantum realm. Their harvesting of worlds wasn't just a search for resources, it was an attempt to steal the path to transcendence itself. The instability in their ships, Patel realized, monitoring the quantum interactions. They're trying to brute force their way into the higher dimensions. But their understanding is flawed. The Nexus fleet, caught in the quantum web created by the Genesis, began to show signs of that instability. Their attempts to manipulate spacetime were creating ripples of distortion that threatened to tear their ships apart. "We have to help them," Sarah declared, surprising even herself. The precursors didn't create this technology for war, they created it to help young races evolve. Through the Helios array, Sarah and her crew began working to stabilize the quantum field around the Nexus ships. It was a delicate process, requiring them to harmonize the frequencies of both their technologies with the ancient quantum network. But as they worked, something unexpected happened. The consciousness of the Nexus crews began to merge with the quantum network as well. Their memories and experiences flowed into the shared space, revealing their own history, a story of desperate survival not unlike humanity's own. They were afraid, Sarah understood, seeing through the quantum link. Their world was dying. They found pieces of precursor technology and thought it was their only hope for survival. They didn't understand there was another way. The merging of consciousness created a moment of perfect understanding between the two species. The Nexus had become the monsters humanity saw them as, but their origins had been born of the same fundamental drive that had led to the creation of the Genesis, the will to survive. Through the quantum network, the precursors offered both species a choice. They could continue their war, fighting over the physical remnants of ancient technology, or they could work together to understand the true purpose of these gifts, the evolution of consciousness itself. "Commander," Rodriguez's voice seemed distant, part of the physical world that now felt less real than the quantum realm they were experiencing. "Other Nexus fleets are approaching. They've detected what's happening here." Sarah knew they had to make a decision. The Genesis had unlocked the door to humanity's next evolution, but stepping through that door would mean leaving behind everything they thought they were fighting for. "Dr. Hayes," she said, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "Can you modify the Helios array to extend this quantum field? To share this understanding with all of humanity and the Nexus?" Hayes worked quickly, her movements guided by both her own knowledge and the insights flowing through the quantum network. "Yes, but it will take every bit of power we have. And once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be changing the very nature of both our species." Sarah looked out at the stars, seeing them now not just as points of light, but as nodes in the vast quantum network that connected all of reality. The war had brought humanity to this point, but it didn't have to define their future. "Do it," she ordered. "Send the signal to all ships, both human and Nexus. It's time we all understood what we're really fighting for." The Helios array pulsed with power one final time, but instead of a beam of destruction, it created an expanding sphere of quantum consciousness. As it spread through space, it touched every mind in both fleets, sharing the understanding that had been granted to the Genesis crew. The war that had seemed so crucial moments ago began to fade in importance as both species glimpsed their true potential. The precursors had not left their technology as weapons to be fought over, but as tools to help younger races take their next step in evolution. As the quantum field stabilized, Sarah felt her consciousness expanding, becoming part of something far larger than herself. The Genesis, humanity's greatest weapon, had become instead the key to their transcendence.